So with just 3 years to go, London has already made significant progress in the development of the Olympic Park. I feel quite lucky because the picture that you can see now, I can actually see from my office window, so can actually sort of see firsthand how all these new iconic buildings are changing the shape of the London skyline. So it's very exciting for us here at Think London. Now the scale of the Games is quite spectacular, and I'm quite conscious that some of you listening today may already have had involvement in the Sydney Games or possibly more recently in the Beijing Games last year. So you will probably appreciate just how large it is. So just to put it into context, the Olympic and Paralympic Games will be simultaneously hosting 26 World Championship events. With 205 countries taking part, 15,000 athletes, with over 9 million tickets being sold. Simply put, this is the largest event in the world, and for London this is worth over $15 billion. Now, in addition to all the world-class sporting facilities, the proposed developments, which will include 10,000 new homes, 4 new schools, 3 academies, and 2 universities. And I underline this message because the opportunities for businesses are not just linked to the developments that are going on within the Olympic Park, but they really expand much broader across the whole regeneration of London. The Olympics is the centrepiece of the largest regeneration project in Europe and adds up to a growth story that's really unmatched almost anywhere in the world right now. The 2 key organisations that you should be aware of, and those of you who've obviously said that you're already involved in bidding for contracts will probably be well aware of these organisations, are the Olympic Delivery Authority, there we go. Thanks, Lisette. So the Olympic Delivery Authority and the London Organising Committee of the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, all here, it should be all there on your screens right now. Now, how we tend to describe it is the Olympic Delivery Authority is responsible for, if you like, building the theatre, and LOCOG is responsible for putting on the show. Now, in other words, the ODA is delivering the infrastructure and the buildings within the Olympic Park, and LOCOG is procuring all things relating to the temporary venues outside of the Olympic Park and everything related to putting on the Games, such as the ticketing, the staffing of the venues, the volunteers, the security, the catering, just to name a few of the business areas. Many of the direct ODA contracts, the Tier 1 contracts, as you'll all be familiar with that term, have been awarded already, but there are still plenty of supply chain opportunities that Mike will touch on later. LOCOG, on the other hand, are just now starting to really ramp up their procurement efforts, and we're going to be seeing much more in the way of business opportunities later this year and in 2010. Now, everything in the Olympic Park and the other venues outside of the Olympic Park have to be ready by 2011, 1 year out from the Games themselves, as the final year is for testing purposes only. Now, this is quite important, and which is the reason why we wanted to do this webinar series now and really start communicating with all of you why it's quite critical if you are interested in getting involved, is you really have to start getting prepared now. For those of you who are interested in bidding for work, it's also worth noting is what the London 2012 organisers are really looking for in any of the sort of procurement bids, as well as obviously the cost element. More importantly, it's the quality of any products or services, the diversity, and the sustainability of the products, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. Now, just to show you, I touched on just now the sort of temporary venues, the sort of temporary overlay of venues that are going to be used outside of the Olympic Park. And I think the great thing about the Games in London in 2012 is they are really maximising a lot of the current venues and locations across London, and also some of our venues outside of London, with football being hosted up in the northwest at Old Trafford and also across at the northeast, sailing down in Weymouth. But then you can see on this slide, just how many venues are actually outside of the Olympic Park. There's over 30 venues outside including the Olympic Park, that's going to be used for the Olympic Games. So just one example is the beach volleyball will be in a place called Horse Guards Parade, and for those of you that know London, there will be the most amazing backdrop with all our Whitehall sort of government buildings as the beach volleyball is taking place. Archery is going to take place at Lord's, where many of you will have been sort of watching the cricket recently on the TV. So I just really wanted to show, for those of you, again, interested in bidding for contracts, do have this awareness that it's not just the Olympic Park. Now, I won't be able to cover off all business sectors in the presentation today. We just simply don't have time. But I just want to highlight why we consider the 2012 Games to be quite unique, and how this uniqueness can provide opportunities for businesses.